The faint noises of vehicles approaching, the screeching of tires as trucks grind to a halt, the rustling of footsteps and the clanking of equipment are heard. Families huddle inside their dwellings in fear, the blackness of night penetrated by the beams of lanterns and flashlights. The door crashes to the floor in splinters. There are screams, and the sounds of gunfire erupt in the still of the night. The pleas of the mothers, fathers, and children fall upon deaf ears as the invaders methodically ransack home after home. The engines start up, the trucks roll away, then silence, save for the moans of the injured and dying and the wailing of those left to bury the dead.
Hey everybody, welcome in. This is The Simple Truth again, and this is your host Jermaine. And as you see, I'm not alone today. I've got a special guest, and it is a treat, an honor, and a pleasure to have a very, very strong truth-telling blogger, my good friend TJ Larson. He's here with me, and I've taken the time purposely, ladies and gentlemen, not to speak on the Kony situation. There's so many different videos out there, the organization Invisible Children. What you've just heard that opened this video was a depiction of the article that TJ wrote when it comes to what is being talked about with the Kony. Many people are calling it the Kony 2012 situation. But we're going to chat here. We're going to get some simple truth out here. But I'm going to give TJ an opportunity to introduce himself to you. We will be providing the link, all the links for this article in the description. And I encourage everyone out there, you be sure, my people, my Simple Truth people, make sure that you jump onto his blog, support him. He is definitely going to become a contributor to the Simple Truth. We're going to contribute to his blog, but we want to get that truth out there very simply so people can understand and know what's going on in the world and bring it down to the simplest of terms. So TJ, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we want to thank you for joining us. Tell us about the article. First of all, what is the title of the article?
The title of the article is called Hear No Evil, See No Evil, Speak No Evil.
Okay, and now it has to do with this Kony 2012 situation. So kind of tell us about the article and what your thoughts were. And, if you want, you can read some excerpts from the article, but just share with the audience here the simple truth as it relates to this Kony 2012 situation.
Well, actually, it came to my attention because my son was looking for something to do a fundraiser for. Okay. And in the process of looking for that, he ran across the video on YouTube, the Kony 2012. And he showed it to me, and I sat there and I watched it. And, I guess just like all the other people that saw the video, I was like just completely blown away by what I saw.
Yeah, definitely.
I couldn't believe it. I had heard of Joseph Kony before. Mm-hmm. Actually, I was more familiar with the child soldier problem that they have over in parts of Africa because they use children quite extensively as soldiers.
Yeah, yeah.
And I knew that was a big problem, but I was actually unaware that this Joseph Kony had been, instrumental in creating these child soldiers, and also that he had been operating for so long. According to the video, he had been doing this for about 26 years. And I was just completely shocked that, someone could do the things that he's been accused of doing, and not be a dictator of a country or something.
Public enemy number one, or something like that.
Where it would be possible to suppress the information, which will, of course, allow the individual to continue what they were doing.
Right.
And I was just really I felt the need to weigh in on that, so I wrote an article. I'm a contributing writer on Yahoo Voices.
Okay. And you have a blog, right?
Yes, I have I have a blog.
Okay.
I have a blog on WordPress. It's called Verbum et Veritas.
Tell us what that means.
Verbum et Veritas is a Latin term that means word and truth.
That's we were talking about that, ladies and gentlemen. We were, this brother here, I've known him for quite some time. He's like another brother to me. And it's just like we were talking about that, and we talked about the different things we were getting out there sharing. And we both are in that seek for that truth. And then when I told him about the simple truth, he was like, bro, man, come on. This is right on it. So, and it just fits. We're in a time, people, that truth is going to be your power. Truth is going to be your weapon against the things that are happening out there. And if it's not given to you or it's not broken down to you for you to understand it, you're going to be caught up. You're going to be lost. So what do you want to share with this, TJ, about the article itself? Maybe, we kind of see what led you to write the article. But what are some of the things you want to share with the audience out there and let them know, basically, because trust me, you're going to read this article. You're going to definitely read it. I beg for you and I plead with you to weigh in on this. And once you weigh in on it, we'll hear about it. But the point is, this is the author. This is the person that did the research, did the insight. So, I've talked enough. I'm going to let TJ weigh in on what he felt and why he went the way he went for this.
Well, as I said previously, it was actually based on a project of my son for a fundraiser. And, he felt just from watching the video that, it would be a worthy thing to pursue. They wanted to get together. He and some of his classmates, they were trying to get together, and they were going to throw up car washes and do things to raise money to contribute to the invisiblechildren.org, which is actually, they are the ones responsible for the production of that video.
Now, we don't owe a copyright for that because we told you where to go look for it. So we just want to make sure we keep it right. That's all. We want to keep it real here. So I threw his train of thought off. Go ahead.
So anyway, I've always been one of those kind of people that, especially when it has something to do with Africa, any type of organization that solicits funds, contributions and that type of thing, I always kind of take a second look at it, because I do know that there have been many, many organizations in the past that have used the plight of the African people in some form or fashion only to line their own pockets.
Well, we was just talking earlier about the Feed the Children, and at the rate that this is going, this many years, these children had to have been fed somehow, and they're still children, maybe 10, 15, 20 years later. Wouldn't they grow up, or is the lack of food keeping them small? I don't know what's going on. Yeah. But, it makes you wonder. But, ladies and gentlemen, I want to just say this Kony 2012 has been, what is starting to happen is there are a lot of things out there that we're starting to see that are causing our attention and focus to come to it. And we have to be understanding of what it really is, not what just they say. We have to do our research. When you're a blogger, when you're a video blogger like myself, and you're doing these things, we have to be sure that we're giving you, as I can say, the real. We want to make sure you have what is out there. So, this what I want for me, the main part in that article where you talked about that paragraph. Could you read for us about the boogeyman? That was just off. And again, you're going to read this article. Remember, TJ Larson. Don't forget, read that article. So we're going to have the links below, so don't worry about that.
Well, basically, like I was saying, I wanted to try to flesh out what I'd learned about this man, and also about the organization that was responsible for bringing this to light. As I stated previously, Joseph Kony has actually been in the news media on several different occasions in the past. Even prior to the International Criminal Court in The Hague issuing the warrants for his arrest in 2005. So there has been some exposure, but the odd thing about it is that there have been accusations or allegations, or whatever you prefer to call them, that the organization Invisible Children have actually been using this particular situation to profiteer off of what is going on in Uganda.
Okay.
And I started thinking, I was like, even though they've gone a long way, they were instrumental in bringing what is happening over there to light, and so many people are now aware of what's going on. It was just kind of ironic that the so-called saviors are also being accused of basically contributing to the exploitation of the people who they are professing to be trying to save, So I really was inclined to write about that, but mostly I was intrigued about Joseph Kony and his ability to do what he's done over this period of time. So the paragraph that he was referring to, I said that I have learned over the years that the boogeyman is real. He's very real. He lives in our collective psyches and is personified in people like Joseph Kony and others of his kind who thrive and flourish off the fear and despair of others. And this is very, very true. If you look through your history, you'll see that most of the people who are in these positions, the dictators, the people who committed genocide on a global scale, were people not unlike this Joseph Kony. They were very commanding, charismatic, and they always seem to have come with a better way to live.
Right.
Which is part of what I stated in the article. Because in places like Uganda, where you have all the suffering, the poverty, and the dictatorships, the governments that oppress the people, it puts these people in a perfect position for someone like Joseph Kony to come around and say, if you follow me, I have a better way of life.
Right.
Well, I mean, when you're starving, you have no money, you can't feed your children, you can't provide for your family, because the government itself that you live under is very crooked and oppressive.
Corrupt, yeah.
Someone like Joseph Kony with his smooth talk and his charisma, well, definitely, what do you have to lose?
Right.
However, it's not very long before you find out that you have a lot to lose in most cases. Wow. Because these are the type of people that capitalize off of the suffering of others.
Yeah.
So my message that I wanted to get out to people here is that whenever we see evil, whenever we see a situation where our fellow human beings are being exploited or taken advantage of, we should call it out. I don't believe that we should rub elbows with people like that for political reasons or any other reason for that matter. Yeah. But as we all know, this is the stock and trade of politics.
Yep, absolutely.
Despite human rights violations, that we see and we hear about in other countries, our country tends to, they tend to be okay with that.
Turning a blind eye.
You know, as long as there's something in it for them.
Profit, or somehow, yeah.
You know, now over here in Africa, there's really nothing over there. I mean, there are natural resources and things like that, but just say in Uganda, for instance, there's basically nothing of interest in Uganda. It's just a country that's been torn apart by many civil wars and unrest, and there's really no reason politically to get involved in that. Mm-hmm. You know, it brings me back to memories of Rwanda, where they had the ethnic cleansing going on, and the tribesmen they were going against each other, and they were hacking people to death with machetes and all this type of thing, and really no one did anything besides maybe send a token force of troops from the United Nations to advise, as they call it, just like they did here. They committed a small force of 100 troops to Uganda to act as advisors.
Observers.
And absolutely. But, you know, it brings up the question for me is this. As I stated in my article, Joseph Kony, if you believe what is being said right now, has been operating for so long, doing these things, and basically no one has done anything until recently. And now, as most of the world is becoming aware of what is going on, well, now the Ugandan government wants to step in and go after this guy and bring him to justice. Well, where was the government 26 years ago?
Yeah, where were they before? Where were they?
And then you also have, which I'm really getting to the gist of this, is, well, it also brings up the question of, well, why should they? Simply because the same things that Joseph Kony and his LRA organization has been accused of, some of those same things the government of Uganda has been accused of as well. Yeah. The corruption, the use of children as soldiers, all of these are clear violations of international law, and of course they're moral violations as well.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, but what are these people to do?
Well, we got to speak for them. We got to be out there.
They have no voice.
Right.
You know, I mean, they can't complain to their government because the government is just as bad as this man.
Yep.
So who is left to speak for those who can't speak for themselves? And that is basically the reason that I wrote this article.
Well, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm floored. I'm absolutely floored. I read this article and it hit me. And you know that I definitely share the truth and the simple truth, and I give you updates, news updates on things that are happening today. But this one is going to be very, very key and important for you to look at, for you to read it. Don't just take what we're saying here. Just read it, look at it, digest it, and you make your own decision, because it's all about what you're willing to put up with, what you're willing to accept. And I, for one, am not willing to accept anything that is hurtful or detrimental to any group of people. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where they are. They can be in Africa. They can be in the United States, Europe. They can be in Asia. But it's all about seeing people as human beings across the country, across the world. And with that, I want to thank TJ for joining us. This won't be the last time you'll see him. We're definitely going to do some more work together. But this has been The Simple Truth. As I always tell you, the simple things are oftentimes the most profound, but yet they're the most difficult to put into practice. So I want to thank you for joining me. Remember, we'll leave the information for TJ's blog and as well as his Yahoo area where you can go and hit his contributing writing to Yahoo. And we'll be back with you real soon. I'll have another episode of The Simple Truth, but take care, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Uh-oh, look at him looking.